You're listening to All Kinds of Catholic with me, Teresa Alessandro. My conversations with different Catholics will give you glimpses into some of the ways we're living our faith today. Pope Leo, quoting St. Augustine, reminds us, "Let us live well, and the times will be good. We are the times." I hope you'll feel encouraged and affirmed, and sometimes challenged, as I am in these conversations. Join our podcast community, get news and background information about the conversations, and share your thoughts if you want to. You can get the newsletter and each episode straight to your inbox by going to allkindsofcatholic.substack.com and clicking on subscribe. It's free. That web address is in the episode notes too, and I'd love you to draw closer to our community. Thank you. Listeners, in this episode we're talking about the We Believe Festival, where this week's guest Gail and I met last year. We're giving you a flavour of what the festival was like last year and maybe looking ahead to this year's festival too. It's from the 24th to the 27th of July, and there's a link in the episode notes if you might be interested. It's coming up soon now. Let's get on with this conversation. Listeners, thanks for joining the episode today. I'm here with Gail, and we met each other last year, almost a year ago now, at the We Believe Festival last summer, when we were both volunteering with the media team. So welcome, Gail.
Hi, Teresa. Thank you. It's so great to see you again and be back.
Exactly. It is great. Let's dive in, Gail, and think about you when you were a tiny baby. Were you born into a Catholic family? Have you been brought up Catholic all this time, or is it something that you've come to later?
A bit of both, really. My parents were both Catholic, but they only really got into their faith when I was maybe 6 years old. So I wasn't baptized until I was 6. So it kind of feels within living memory I've always been Catholic, though. So yeah, a bit of both.
Well, that's interesting that it was your parents first who made a deeper commitment to their faith when you were young. Very interesting. Can you remember being baptized then at 6 years of age?
Yes, I actually do. I remember having a really pretty white dress, being a bit excited, it was a bit different. I think I had a friend who was also being baptized with me, so we kind of did it together. Yeah, I do remember a little bit. I wish I remembered more of the sacramental part of it. I do mostly remember the dress.
Okay, and maybe the cake after all.
Oh yes, there was cake.
Well, I'm glad that it happened anyway, that you were baptized. And then growing up in the faith, was there a time that you can think, oh, that's when I really started to take my faith seriously, or were you a serious child around your faith anyway?
There were definitely a few moments where it suddenly felt more important to me. I went on a retreat when I was 11. And it was my first time ever being around so many Catholics my age. In a rural area, I didn't really have any Catholics my age in the church, in the parish. There were no youth groups. There was nothing really going on. But then all of a sudden, I'm in this retreat, and loads of friends all around me, my age, Catholic, interested in the faith. We're all there to learn. So that was definitely a good experience. But most of all, it's where I first discovered adoration. And that was really just incredible to me. I don't think I'd ever done it before. And it was just beautiful. I think it was our last day of the retreat in this chapel. I think it was only candlelight. It was all dark. And just the Blessed Sacrament of brilliant white on the altar. I think we all just felt quite connected, maybe, just all of us praying in front of Jesus. Just incredible. So I definitely came home with that sort of warm glow feeling, when your faith kind of feels more real to you all of a sudden. That was definitely an important moment.
And that is interesting to hear. We sometimes hear contrasts with guests for people who are a Catholic in a rural area compared with someone who's a Catholic in a busy town where there's many more Catholics just because there's many more people. So it is different. And I guess it's a hard place to be a young person if there is no one else much in the parish congregation, or maybe not living near you. I think that shows us an extra dimension of why a retreat is valuable, to bring people together.
Definitely.
So adoration meant a lot to you at the age of 11. That's a lovely thing to hear about. There is something very sensory, isn't there, about adoration, because it's so still. I think you concentrate on the, as you say, the whiteness of the host, candles, the stillness, and feel that deep connection with our Lord. So I think it's really helpful to remind ourselves that someone of the age of 11 can experience that and find it valuable. We might think it was something for older, more mature people to properly understand what's happening. No, you can be 11.
Yeah, I think you can appreciate that there's something beautiful that you don't understand that's going on. And I don't think that feeling, for me anyway, changes, even if you think you do start to understand more about it. It's always going to be a mystery. And I guess maybe when you're younger, you're just used to everything being kind of a bit unknown.
Stepping outside the conversation, listeners, I want to build the sustainability of this podcast mission. And if you can contribute to this work of lifting up the voices of ordinary Catholics, please consider a paid subscription. Go to our Substack site to do that. But if not, all our content remains free, and I'm glad these conversations are here for you. Let's get back to this one. Lots of people that I speak to on the podcast, the proper teenage years can be a bit of a wobbly time for faith. Not for everyone, but for quite a lot of people. How did you experience that then, having had that really good experience at the age of 11? What happened in your faith? Could you feel the Lord working in your life, going through school and exams and things like that?
I never really doubted my faith. I never really broke away from it in any way. I definitely became quite relaxed with it. But then I would still, if I was worried about something, I would still pray about it, still went to Mass every week. It just wasn't so important to me, I guess, throughout teenage years. And then more recently, maybe since year 11, being 16 onwards, I'd say I've gotten closer. Around the time I got confirmed, I suppose. I think that's when I really started coming back to it, maybe.
Well, we can expect graces at the time of confirmation, so I guess that makes sense too.
Absolutely.
And then I think it'd be really nice to talk about the We Believe Festival and give people a flavour of what that's like. And maybe they might think about going this year, or at least think about it for another time. So I remember that on the first proper day we were there, it was unbelievably hot.
Yes.
And we were really melting with the volunteer jobs that we were doing.
Yeah.
But then there were so many wonderful things. I mean, just to give a flavour of the things I can remember, and you'll remember different things, I know, but the Dominican sisters were there giving some really good talks about theology, but in a very human way that we could kind of follow quite well. That's how I experienced it. And I still remember a couple of things that I heard one of the Dominican sisters say in those talks that I went to. And then I remember that there were people there who liked the Latin Mass, and there was Latin Mass and Latin worship available in the chapel. And there were people from the Syro-Malabar tradition.
Yes.
And there was some amazing dancing that they were doing. Lots of different kinds of music. Charismatic opportunities for people that appreciate charismatic worship. So there's so many different parts of the church there, and a lot of people, and it felt really kind of buzzy, but also it was lovely to feel part of a really big community of people who are all Catholics, who all understand this faith that is leading us through our lives. That's my little nutshell. What about you?
Oh, you summed it up so well there. Yeah, it was just incredible. It really felt Catholic universal. We're all there because we're all Catholics and we all bring something different to it. I loved the talks as well. The Dominican sisters of St. Joseph, like you said, they're just brilliant. Such lovely people. I seem to remember, I think there were some contemplative orders there. I seem to remember contemplative prayer being offered. There was Latin Mass. That was really amazing. It might have been my first ever Latin Mass, I think. I had no idea when to sit, when to stand, but it was beautiful though. It was really lovely. All these tents, you could just drift in and out if you wanted. You could get a snippet of wisdom here and there. You drift past a fantastic talk about art, and then you'd go past another great talk about history or music, theology. I did a lot of that. I was in and out taking photographs, so I was always picking up bits and pieces from all these talks. Yeah, just a fantastic atmosphere, just so rich with everything that you could receive from it.
Exactly. For listeners, there was a really big tent that was where Mass was held every day. Lots and lots of our bishops and clergy were there over the weekend. Everybody went into Mass. Lots of families were there, lots of children. Whoever was preaching preached really well. It was wonderful. And the music was fantastic. for the Mass, something different each time, but really fantastic. The liturgy, I think, had been really well thought about. And regarding the children, we did one shift, didn't we, on the Bounty Castle area
Yes.
when it was particularly hot. So there were things for children, as well as the kind of activities like springing around on the Bounty Castle. There were some faith-based activities at the level of the children. There were some people there that offer those kind of ministries, offering sessions with the children. So there was plenty for children to appreciate and feel part of as well. And it was lovely the way they were all there in the Mass. There was a fantastic moment I remember, I don't know if you remember this, when Archbishop Longley was preaching and he invited everyone. He said something like, if you can be still for a moment. And of course, there's all those children there. And you could hear the children's little voices and little sounds. And he said, listen to that. Isn't that like little birds? It's like little birds tweeting around us. And it really was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was beautiful. He just made the children's presence there so welcome and so part of what we were there for. It was wonderful.
Absolutely.
The only thing I would say as a disadvantage that I'm going to try and do better this year, because it was such a packed programme, there were so many wonderful things. It was hard to choose. And I sometimes went to part of one thing and part of another thing because I didn't want to miss it. It began to feel a bit overwhelming at times. So I'm going to try and do better on that this year. Although, for listeners, last year I was there as a volunteer with the media team, but this year I'm going to be there as all kinds of Catholics. So I will be recording some episodes and having some conversations with people. So I'll probably be overwhelmed in a different way, trying to keep on top of the tech.
That's so exciting, though. That's a really fun opportunity.
Yeah, it is. There was something like 2,500 people there last year, I think is right.
It was huge.
And wonderful to be immersed in so many, like you say, Catholic people who are all different, but all sharing this faith together. It was great. I don't know if you've been to any other festivals along the way. I was trying to think, I certainly haven't experienced anything on that scale before. Have you been to other festivals? Because there are others out there.
No, never. It was the first of that kind that I'd ever been to. Haven't been anything like it since.
Well, the bar is set high then for both of us. And the other thing I would say, just before we finish on this subject, because I feel like I'm talking too much now, Gail, but can you remember on that hot day, we went to try and find some water and we went into a back room where the team were meeting. And there was a group of the team leaders, organisers in prayer, praying about the conference. And we were just sneaking over to the tap to get some water.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking how wonderful that they are praying about the
Definitely.
success of the festival together just before it begins.
Yeah, it was so rooted in prayer. It's just an incredible thing to walk into a room and there's people praying for everyone there. Yeah, just beautiful.
And then out of that, I remember that you were growing in confidence with your photographs. Tell us a little bit about photography then. I'd like to talk about your Instagram account, but let's talk about the photography first, because maybe that came first, did it?
Yeah, definitely. I was given my first camera, maybe I was 9, maybe a little younger. It was a little teeny tiny camera, and I loved it. I took it everywhere with me. And then for my A-levels, I studied photography. That was incredible. It was such a leap in skills learnt and opportunities, and I had fantastic teachers. So yeah, I really, really came into photography. I began to see it as more than just a casual hobby, a camera I'd carry around. And so yeah, that really helped my photography. And then the We Believe Festival was just after I had completed my A-levels. So I was still fresh off of the wonderful high of my photography. And I was keen to keep putting my skills to good use. My parents had signed up to the festival and I thought, well, I want to try and be helpful there. I took a look at the volunteer opportunities and there was media and I thought, great. So I brought my camera. I think it was the first time I had done any photography like that. I was a bit worried that there would be all these professional photographers around me and, kind of what to expect. But everyone was so lovely, so encouraging. I had a lot to learn from everybody as well. I was taking live photos of live events for the first time ever, which was really fun, actually. I really enjoyed that.
Do you think there was an extra connection for you because it was a Catholic event that, that what you were photographing also had this dimension that it was about our faith that you were photographing? parts of the Mass where not everybody would know where it's appropriate to go and take a really close photo and where it might not be, and those kind of things. You're photographing people who are talking about faith and talking about the history of the church, maybe. Do you think that was something that connected you to the photographs more, or am I reading too much into it?
No, absolutely. I love the phrase that, God is good, true, and beautiful. So all that is good, all that is true, all that is beautiful points to God. When I was studying photography, I was really chasing beauty. I mostly photographed people, and I kind of had this little philosophy that anyone can look good in a photograph, and that I would only take pictures that flattered people in a deeper way, I suppose. And so then being in a Catholic place where everyone is so joyful and Catholicism is just so important to them all, it was suddenly I was able to take pictures of people where the beauty was just already there. Trying to take pictures, realizing that the beauty I'm showing is pointing to God because He is good and true and beautiful. So I think it was definitely linked in my mind.
I know listeners will be really interested in your thoughts about that. So what about Instagram then? I seem to remember as we left, we believe, you saying something like, oh, well, I don't know about social media really, but I'm going to give it a try. And you've set up this Instagram account, which I've been following, and I will put a link in the notes for people. You really do have interesting themes that you seem to have chosen to guide the things that you post for a little while. Tell us a bit about how all that comes about then.
I was talking with some other photographers who were there. I think they're two Scottish cousins.
Yes, that was John Patrick from Sancta Familia Media. They've been on the podcast
Oh, really?
because that's where I saw them also.
Yeah. Shout out to them. I was chatting with them, just sort of saying, you guys are so much more experienced than me. Do you have any advice for a young photographer? And they said, just post pictures online and see what happens. There's a platform out there. I have pictures, just sort of put them together. And they said, yeah, you never know what will happen with it. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. I had never had Instagram before. I was a bit, not anti social media, but just very cautious of the downsides of it. I still definitely am. But I gave it a go. So I created my account. I remember spending a while coming up with the name. And then I think I put the name on our media team group chat just to say, here it is. If anyone can give me any pointers, very welcome. And I think the media team were the first followers of mine. Very cherished moment. I think my first 5 followers, it was you guys.
And just tell us the name of your account.
Maristella Photography. So it's in reference to Stella Maris, Our Lady Star of the Sea, the devotion that became sort of increasingly important to me. And I thought, I want this account to be well guided. So she was perfect for it.
We'll talk about your devotion to Our Lady in a minute, but let's talk about your Instagram a little more first. I can see that you've chosen themes to, as I say, guide you through a little bit. And where do they come from? Is that something you pray about? Is it to do with the, liturgical seasons or feast times or?
Let me see. So my first one, I think it was just We Believe because I had all these photos from it. So that just made sense. And it was still, people were still talking about it. So I thought, okay, that would be good. And then what did I do? It's definitely liturgical aligned, usually. I think for December, one time I picked light. I was thinking about the passages about how our Lord is the light coming into the world. And I was also thinking how, the nights are so dark, the evenings are so long. The sense of darkness is just really quite strong in December. So yeah, lights was an important theme for me then. At the moment, I'm looking at the sea. So I'm kind of looking at links between the sea, Catholicism, where it comes up in the Bible, just quotes. It just sort of popped into my mind. I was having a think about just what sort of things I wanted to express, what I might be called to post. I'm very conscious of not adding anything poor quality out there. I don't really know how to express it. There's a lot that you can waste your time on online, and I don't want to add to that. I only want to sort of contribute good things, I think.
good, true, and beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think you do that. I know what you mean about things that are poor quality. I think sometimes you can see social media that doesn't really express the person themselves. And of course, some people are more private and maybe that's not what they're aiming to do. But where it's your Instagram account with your photographs, I think you have somehow really found a way to express your faith and your thoughtfulness about the world around us and how we fit into it and where Jesus fits into it. You know, using your photographs and building them around something that might be around the liturgical season. And I think not everybody would be able to do that, especially straight off. I can remember following your account from the beginning and thinking, you're so good at this.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I would encourage listeners to have a look. There's lots there to encourage and affirm us in our faith. Getting back to your devotion to Our Lady, in May, I think you had done something about flowers related to Our Lady.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about where Our Lady fits into your faith then.
There's a beautiful prayer that's really been on my mind maybe for the last month now. It's just, Mary, teach me to love Jesus. And it's a nice simple one. Every time I get distracted in adoration, it's quite nice to bring to mind. I think if you want to learn more about anyone, you can just look to their mother. There's just so much beautiful tradition around Mary, both in scripture and in just Catholic tradition. I think in the Gospel of Luke, he pays the most attention to Our Lady. There's her beautiful Magnificat prayer, which I read a really lovely meditation on. Just her quiet devotion and how she must have lived a very quiet life. She's the mother of God, and yet no one knew that. She was always still a mother, just working at home every day, and I just think that humility is incredible. She's absolutely a role model.
I like Mary, teach me to love Jesus. That's a fantastic, simple prayer, but with a lot of depth in it.
It's beautiful.
I'm going to use that myself now. Thank you. And I'm sure some listeners will too. Thinking now, so you're at university now. Is there something about your faith that has guided the choices you've made around your life so far? And can you see some idea of in the future how your faith might continue to shape your life? Maybe that's quite a technical sounding question, but I only mean it in a kind of your experience of how do you make choices? How do you feel that God is working through you into the things you choose to do and where you find yourself?
I think everything is so unknown at the moment. There's a lot of anxiety in my generation about job security. Should I get a degree? Is it even worth anything anymore? Will I not get one and then suddenly regret it? And then you've got all this comparison, all your friends doing other things. So there's this constant uncertainty, and I'm really slowly learning that that's just how it's going to be, that I can't have a plan for everything. And I think that's something that aligns with our faith, that no, you don't have a plan for anything. And if you think you do, you still don't. And so the best thing you can do is just to pray about it. But, it's often said prayer, it doesn't change God, it changes you. And so you might feel just more sort of settled with it. You might feel more comfortable just going forward, not knowing. It's just sort of an anchor in this big unknowingness of it all.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think that captures, it's good to hear from someone directly experiencing life like that amongst younger people in our society. I think that captures what I'm hearing from people. And that brings me on to the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, actually, just to see your thoughts. I'm asking guests at the moment about this idea that maybe there is a revival of the church among young people in our country or in Europe. Maybe young people are coming back to the church or finding the church in greater numbers than before. I wonder what your experience of that is. Perhaps in a rural area, it's not so easy to tell, but maybe at university you can see some signs, or maybe you don't see signs. What are your thoughts? What kind of thing are you seeing around you?
I'd say that there is more interest in there being something bigger than ourselves out there among young people. My friends have always had a curiosity about my faith. They've always been really lovely. I've never had any bad experiences. So they've often asked me questions about it. Yeah, I'd say that with all of this anxiety, with all of this unknowingness, I think people desperately want there to be something good. Is it St. Augustine? Hopefully a listener can correct me otherwise. He says that our hearts are restless until they rest in you. And I think that's definitely, it's true for all generations, all centuries. And I think that it's just great among young people at the moment. There's a restlessness, and they're beginning to turn to faith, spirituality. I think eventually it'll point to God. But I'd say young people are searching, and more of them are finding the Catholic Church.
Well, that is very encouraging. And I think it follows on well from what you said about there being so little certainty for people of your generation at the moment. I wonder if that is part of it, that perhaps previously people thought they did have a plan. Like you say, they didn't really, but it felt like people did have a plan. It felt like they knew what they were doing and that they were in charge of making their life work. And so they perhaps just didn't feel that restlessness quite as close to the surface, that anxiety, uncertainty that you've expressed. So maybe that's part of what's bringing young people searching for something
I think so.
stable and to rely on in their lives. It's wonderful for the church, but it's sad also, isn't it? Well, I find it's hard to think of young people feeling so unsettled. Yes. Listeners, I guess that means Gail's efforts to share faith on Instagram and other people's efforts to share faith in modern ways is even more valuable. Listen, Gail, thanks ever so much for finding a few minutes to speak today for us on the podcast. It's been really lovely to reconnect with you and to hear where you're at. And I think you've brought some great insight and experience. We can see the Lord working through you and reaching other people through your social media and through your relationships with friends who are asking you questions about faith. That's really wonderful to hear about. It's wonderful to hear that adoration meant something to you when you were 11. It's great to be taking away an extra prayer to Our Lady that we can all share in. So thank you ever so much for finding time to talk today.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Thanks so much for joining me on All Kinds of Catholic this time. I hope today's conversation has resonated with you. A new episode is released each Wednesday, and you can follow All Kinds of Catholic on the usual podcast platforms. Rate and review to help others find it. You can also follow us on social media at Kinds of Catholic. And remember, if you connect with us on Substack, you can comment on episodes and share your thoughts and be part of the dialogue there. Until the next time.